Well, even with all the super advanced electronics on the market today, it can still be challenging sometimes to find that special spot that the fish are relating to. Well, when we've got a big brush pile or a defined ledge or a huge boulder, those things are pretty easy to pick up on our electronics. But often, so often, it is the slightest little ditch, or it might be a tiny little stump. It's just really defined places, or I like to say that spot within a spot, that can make all the difference. So how do we locate those? How do we go from catching one fish or two fish on that area to maybe really going to town on a particular location? Well, if you're fishing something a little bit quicker, let's say a square bill crankbait, and you're going right down a riprap shoreline and boom, you catch one. Go ahead and, probe it again with that square bill, hit it from a couple angles or whatever. But then if it's a good fish, okay, and even if it's, just a nice fish, a 2-pounder or whatever, go ahead and pick something else up, it's a little bit slower. Whether that's a jig, one of my favorites is a heavier jig, or a Texas rig soft plastic, and probe that area just a little bit and see what you can find out. I just had this happen to me up on the Mississippi River. We found an area that was very small. I would say, obviously I couldn't get down there and measure it, but it was no bigger than half the size of your boat deck, okay? About half of a boat deck is what I believe this spot was. And if you hit it at the right angle, there was a good fish that came off of it every single time that we went there. It was really one of those spots within a spot, and it was a little bit offshore, okay, had a little bit of distance to it, and most boats that were working that shoreline were going to go right over the top of it. They wouldn't even hit it, okay? So we kind of found this location at first by accident. An errant cast was a little bit off target, picked up a nice fish, but then we started to do some investigating. So glad that we did. Another key example about this is bottom composition. Sometimes when you're bringing that little bit heavier jig or that soft Texas rig soft plastic, you can feel where the bottom just is different. For example, maybe you're fishing a river, okay, and there's some silty spots where the current, doesn't really get into it very hard, but there might be a boulder or something or a rock out there that redirects the current up into an area and cleans off a hard spot. That can be all that it takes to be something different that is just an absolute fish magnet. So take that time to do a little bit of investigating, and man, there's so many times, there's so many days when I think you're going to be really glad that you did. The best professional anglers are so good at this. They take that first fish they catch and then they really analyze what was going on, and they take the time to figure out, is there something bigger going on here that maybe right away isn't as noticeable. And hey, if you want to watch a video that talks about 3 keys to catching bass in current, and often 3 places that we overlook, go ahead and check this video out right here. And make sure that you go out and encourage someone today. You never know how you might just change their life. For the Bass Fishing Life, I'm your host, Steve Rogers.